What if the thing we fear most, death, isn't the problem? It's the way we avoid talking about it. I'm Kandas Rodarte, and you are listening to Gratitude Geek. We are all about building genuine, lasting connections with clients, colleagues, and community. And today we are chatting with INELDA-certified death doula and grief coach, Nikki Smith. Welcome, Nikki.
Hi.
Let's talk about death.
Yay.
Okay, so this is a topic that is so far out of the normal conversations that we have on the show.
I have no doubt.
But I adore you, and death is a business. I mean, I just attended a funeral last week. It is definitely, there is money to be made in death.
Oh, yeah.
And you do something that I'd never heard of before I met you. And you and I know each other. We've known each other for, I don't know, 6 months or so.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. So we've had conversations before. But for many people listening, they have no idea what a death doula is. So what is a death doula, and why did you become one?
Okay. So the shortest, I'll give the shorter pitch of death doula, and then I can get into more later. We are providing non-medical support for the dying and their loved ones to help them navigate end-of-life space. That's just like the one sentence version. So where hospice and medical care and social work kind of leave off, we fill in the gaps. So for people with terminal disease, for people who are just elderly, anybody who might be facing end of life, we can come in and help do the emotional work. We can help you create the legacy you want so that you can leave behind something for your family, your loved ones, the entire world. Think big. And we can also help with a lot of the logistics. Dying is, there's a lot of paperwork that needs to be done. Just as a business, there's a lot of things, and a lot of our lives get more and more complex all the time. Like, have you thought about what happens to your social media after you die? Probably not. That's something a social worker is probably not going to go over with you either. So all these like little things you're not thinking about that might need to be taken care of before you leave this earthly realm are things that we can help get in order. And our goal, and my goal, all end of life doulas, our goal is to take care of them as much as we can, get all the nitty gritty out of the way so that when you are in your final months, weeks, days, however long it is, you can have a more fulfilling time with your loved ones and not be worrying about what's going to happen to my Facebook account.
When my mother passed away, my sister had her login ID and just deleted her account. And this was, I don't know, 15 years ago maybe. So I don't know if Facebook had the legacy feature that they have now.
Yeah.
But man, I sure do wish that my mom's account had been put into legacy mode. So I just go back every once in a while and say hi.
I think they had just started doing that when my brother passed away. So we were able to do, it was way easy. Like all I had to do was tell them my brother's gone. I don't remember if they had to have asked for some kind of I didn't have a copy of the death certificate, so I didn't give them that. But they just memorialized his account. I think I tried to do it for my cat has a Facebook page. And when I had her put down, I wanted to do the in memorial, and they were asking for all this stuff. I'm like, it's a cat. I don't have it. Forget it. Just leave it. So I just left it alone.
You know, I've heard of cats having Instagram accounts, but not Facebook accounts.
Oh yeah, she was before Instagram. She was very old.
You know, I think my cat should have their own Instagram account because they're pretty funny, but I don't have the bandwidth. I just don't have the bandwidth to do it.
I did at the time. I don't now. My new cat does not have his own Facebook page. He has no social media. He's kind of not on.
Like I said, I went to a funeral last week, and it was a celebration. I mean, it was just, you know, people sharing stories, but it was an unexpected passing. I believe he'd had a stroke, and after about 2 weeks, they decided to take him off life support. So so some families have a little bit of time, and some don't. And basically the business model that you have is set up for the people who have the time. But can you also help the people that don't?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have actually have helped people in the past who experienced a sudden loss. And even though what was done, the body was cremated, they had a funeral, but they were just like confused as to everything. I mean, most of it was their grief. Like, okay, I've done the things, but something just I don't know where I am. I don't know what's going on. Everything's so confusing. And this is just so quick. So I was able to, I think we only even had 2 meetings. I helped make sure that I gave them a checklist of all the things needed to be taken care of after somebody dies. Most of it they had done. There were a few things I was like, oh my God, I didn't think of that. But most of it was just checking in, like, okay, let's take a step back from all the details. Let's talk about where we are emotionally and help them through that. Because if you can have, I don't want to call it a blessing, but a blessing of anticipatory grief leading up to somebody's death. If you know that it's coming, right? You have the time to grieve a little bit as they're going. And then when they die, you're still going to grieve. Absolutely. But you at least have started that process. When there's a sudden loss, there's nothing to prepare you for that. It's just there. And like you were saying at the top of the show, we don't talk about death. We don't talk about grief either. So when we're faced with it, we don't know what we're doing. We think we're crazy. We think whatever we're feeling is not right and not normal. And oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And life is never going to be the same again, which is true. But I was able to at least help them get over that initial hump so that they could start processing their new life without this person.
Well, the word that, because as a business coach, I'm all about systems. Even a solopreneur needs to have their systems in place.
Mhm.
And you said checklist.
Oh, yeah. I love me some checklists.
Checklists are an amazing way to make sure all your T's are crossed and all your I's are dotted. You've got your checklist. I love that you do that for your clients.
Yeah, I've had people specifically ask for that, like those who are entering hospice. They're like, I want to make sure everything is done. Do you have a checklist? And it alters for based on the person. I've got like a framework of one, and I can add to it as I talk to them because everybody's different.
I wish my CPA would give me a checklist every year. Are you listening, Mr. CPA? You know who you are. I wish you would give me a checklist every year because they really do help.
Yeah.
So I made this bold statement about how death is big business. We could have two conversations. We could talk about how death is big business, or we could talk about casseroles. Because I have thoughts on both.
Casseroles.
I have thoughts on both. Where do you want to go first?
Oh, gosh. You know what? Let's start with casseroles. I want to hear your big thoughts on casseroles.
So when my mother passed away, we were very, very grateful for the number of people who showed, because there were parents lived in Portland and my sister also lived in Portland. And then everybody else came in. Nobody else lived in Portland. And so my sister's friends kept dropping off lasagna. So we had lasagna for dinner. And my mother had been in ICU basically in a coma for I don't remember how long, but it was much longer than it should have been. And so we had been there, my sisters and I and my aunt and uncle and my dad, and more people came as time went on because we knew what was happening. And we were all staying at my sister's house, sleeping on couches and whatever. And then these lasagnas just started showing up. And we were grateful for them, but it was a lot of lasagna. And it's
Are
hard.
you like at that point where you never want to have lasagna again ever in your entire life?
It's been over 10 years, so I can eat lasagna again. But what are some suggestions on non-casserole things? Because the food is very much appreciated. But what are some non-casserole things that people can drop off?
Absolutely. I've got great ideas for that. So first of all, even before I give you my suggestions, that I'm in the Midwest. That's what we do. We do food, right? Again, since we don't have these conversations, and it's starting to turn, I'm seeing a turn. We can talk about that later, but we're not talking about death, dying, and grief, right? So when somebody else is grieving or has suffered a loss, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to talk to them. It's just like, and we panic and we either say something really stupid, like it was all in God's plan, or we bring casseroles, right? And it's just like, here, and that makes us feel better. Like, oh, I feel better. I did something good. Whereas that person might be really sick of casseroles. So if you are trying to help somebody who has suffered a loss, before you bring over a casserole, maybe ask them if that's what they need. Would you like, and don't ask, what do you need? There's always that, what I would love to help. Please, if you need anything, let me know. Because that puts it on the grieving person to A, know what they need, and B, to ask for it. And we all suck at asking for help. And when you've got grief brain, you're not going to think of it until it's in the moment and you're kind of nervous about calling somebody in the moment. I need dinner. So if you want to help somebody, do you need food? Can I go to the grocery store for you? I'm going. Do you want a gallon of milk while I'm there? Offer other practical help. You don't have to offer food. Do they have children in the house? Let me take your kids to the zoo for the day so you can have a day off to grieve and do whatever you need to do. Let me take them out for ice cream tonight. Can I mow the lawn for you is a big one. I'm always offering to mow people's lawns. I don't like doing my own, but I will mow somebody else's lawn. Can I bring my mower over? I'd love to help you with that. can I pick up your dry cleaning? So if you know that person well enough to know what some of their projects are, what they do day to day, offer to pick one of those things and do it for them. Always offer specific and practical help.
Those are excellent ideas. The food is appreciated too.
Oh, yeah. I love food. Bring me food all day. That's fine. But I also have food allergies. So, like, if somebody brings over a shrimp plate, I'm going to be like, wow, I'll not eat this.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. After I got home from my mother's funeral, so I'd probably been in Portland for 6 weeks. And again, this was over 10 years ago, so I may get some details wrong. So after I came home from my mother's funeral, like my mother-in-law was already in the hospital. She had a hole in her heart and was leaking into her lungs. And so she had pneumonia constantly. And she had basically decided, I'm done. She literally said, I'm done. So they took her off of everything. They just had her, they just gave her some pain meds. They moved her into a private room and she fell asleep and didn't wake up on her own terms. So that's when my husband's family shows up at our house, all coming in from all over the place. And a girlfriend of mine drops off this huge ham, humongous ham from like Sam's Club or Costco or one of those places. And it was fantastic. You know, if we had been Jewish, it'd be a whole nother story, but she knew we weren't. But
Oh,
it was
gosh.
fantastic because I was feeding 25 people. And
Yeah.
this ham plus the salad, somebody else. I mean, I was able to feed a
Yeah.
whole lot of folks because they
Yeah.
just kept coming. My husband's
Yeah.
family is a lot bigger than mine. So yeah, the food is very, very much appreciated,
Absolutely.
but there's only so much lasagna.
Right. Well, and there's another great suggestion I always give to people is like, again, casseroles are great. And when somebody experiences a loss, they're going to get a ton of them for about a week, maybe two. And then they won't get it. And then the casseroles will stop coming because we get to that point where the rest of the world moves on. We're still grieving. Casserole. I call that when the casseroles stop. So nobody's checking in. Nobody's asking if you're okay. Nobody's offering to bring up. So if somebody you feel like is already inundated with casseroles, wait about a month. Be like, hey, how are you? Do you want to talk about it? Do you want a casserole?
At that point, they might say yes.
I mean, you never know. I know for sure when my brother died, it was probably about 3 weeks after when I realized like nobody's asking if I was okay anymore. Nobody was checking in. Nobody was offering to bring stuff over. It was just like, oh, I'm in this alone now. I wasn't, but it felt that. And so many people feel that way. Like, I'm in it alone now. This is it. Nobody's thinking about this but me.
And that's hard.
It's
That's
very
when it's
hard.
important. That's when those little tiny things like I'm just thinking about you greeting card or,
Oh, yeah.
a little text messages,
Yeah. Send them a funny
just,
joke or a
yeah,
stupid meme just to start a conversation. I love doing that.
yeah. And those little things are so appreciated. And if they
Mhm.
don't respond, they're not ready. But they know,
Exactly.
but that doesn't mean that they don't feel appreciate,
Well,
don't
yeah.
appreciate the
Never take
gesture.
that. Never take that personally.
Yeah.
Don't. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the business of dying because it's huge. First of all, what is an INELDA-certified death doula?
It's INELDA.
INELDA. Okay, sorry.
That's okay. INELDA is the International End of Life Doula Association. So
So
that's
this is
where,
an international organization. This is okay. I'd never even heard of this business before, and all of a
yeah.
sudden it's an international organization.
Yeah. So, and there's no one like overarching branch that oversees end of life doulas. We don't want that anyway. Just side note, we don't want that. And Elda's just one of the places that offers training. And they also offer like a community and support and all sorts of, tools and everything for doulas and or starting out in business. They're one of several. There are a lot out there. There's some that are really reputable and some that are not, like anything, because everything's a business, right? Somebody out there, somebody might come up with a training and just like scour money and give them terrible, terrible training or not give them nearly enough, not the amount of information. Not that yes, there are places that do that actually. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to do that, but there are some trainings out there that will do things like that. They'll
It
take your
doesn't
money.
matter what the industry is; it happens across the board.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So yeah, that's where I received my training through. And I've also since then taken other trainings and partial trainings from other groups because I just love learning and I want to get as much knowledge as I can.
So, is there like a governing body that makes sure that death doulas aren't being icky, like the World Health Organization or anything? So you're just out
No,
there
we're just
doing.
out there. Yeah.
Is it? Is
That's
it? is it faith-based? Are there death doulas in different religions, or is it?
No, there's no like faith based to the work itself. It's much like a birth doula. Like there are absolutely Christian death doulas, Jewish death doulas, a secular, I know a shaman who's a death doula. Like, but the point of our work is to not identify, even if we personally identify with one specific spiritual belief, that's not our job to use that for our clients. We meet them where they're at. I've worked with clients of all different faith backgrounds. I've had very, very religious Catholic. I've had devout, not quite Orthodox, but very conservative Jewish. I've had atheist. I had a Buddhist. So I've had several different people. My job, I'm not going to tell you which one of those I fall under because it doesn't really matter, because my job is to meet them where they're at.
Yeah, it's none of our business. So the only difference between the different religious beliefs is that, we all die the same. Dying, the dying is the same for all of us. It's what we believe happens after we're dead. So it doesn't really matter what about the work that you do, because your job is to make sure that what happens here in this plane is taken care of.
My job's to walk you to the door. What happens after you walk through it, I can't help with.
Wow, it's amazing. Okay, so the business.
Yes.
Now that we've talked about your business, let's talk about all the things that are feeding into dying now. I
Yeah.
mean, it's big business, medicine, it's all. And some could argue that the healthcare system is about keeping you alive for as long as you want.
Absolutely.
I mean, the longer they keep you alive, the more money you make. I mean, as someone who's living with breast cancer, metastatic breast cancer, and seeing how long lives are being extended that maybe shouldn't be extended. I'm sorry, but now that I've been through it for 10, 11 years, I know that I'm going to say no at some point, right? But there are people who keep saying yes because their family wants them to. That's not business related, but let's go there.
Yeah, well, and actually that feels like that's a big part of what I do. I help people to advocate for themselves, because I've had a couple of my clients that have found me have been at that point where they're like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore, but their family is so excited for them to hit that next round of chemo or, whatever treatment their family's like, yeah, we're going to keep fighting this. And they're like, but I don't want to. And how do you look at your children or your spouse and be like, I don't want to keep fighting, and this isn't worth it anymore because my quality of life is in the toilet. But even they're questioning. I'm like, should I keep? Maybe I should, though. Maybe it might be worth it. And like, my job's not to tell you what to do or what not to do. I'm not going to tell you to stop treatment or continue or whatever. My job's to meet you where you're at, but also to help you understand that you're allowed. Your doctor might even be the one that's like, no, 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 we're going to do this one more. We're going to try this next one. There's this new trial. It's going to be out in 3 weeks. We'll just keep you going and tell them we'll try that. You can tell your doctor no. You are absolutely allowed to tell your doctor no.
Yeah, your doctor works for you, not the other way around.
Yeah. And our whole lives were raised to we listen to what our doctors tell us, right? They know better because they went to school for a billion years and they know all the things. And it might be, but if it's your body, it's your life and your death. If you don't want treatment, don't.
I'm going to push back on you with the statement you
Please.
just said, because I think our culture is shifting away from believing in doctors.
You're right. And I'm seeing that. Yeah.
I want to talk about it.
I have this is kind of new because yeah, we are starting to get that point. We're starting to realize like, hey, we don't have to listen to these people. They might not know us best. And I love that we're learning to advocate for ourselves, especially when it comes to women's health. Because how long have women been brushed off, right? Literally
The
forever.
fact men don't understand how women's bodies work.
No, they don't. And we've been brushed off for so long when we're like, something is wrong. They're like, oh, it's just your period. It's like, for sake, no, it's, and there's two sides to this, obviously, because then you get the person who is like, I read on Facebook that vaccines cause autism, so I don't want to vaccinate my children. Or, I read that chemo is causing cancer, not curing. Like, you get the people that are just reading stuff on Google and they're assuming that they know better. It's a balance. There's got to be a balance, right? Because yes, doctors might know a little more than we do about certain things. They might not know everything. They might not know how a woman's body freaking works.
Well, and the research is constantly updating. So things that were true 5 years ago might not be true anymore. When I first started going through chemo, every time I had my port accessed, they would run heparin through it, and they don't do that anymore. New research came out, and it's not required anymore, so they don't need to do that anymore, which is, and then I was told when I first had my partial mastectomy that I shouldn't have my blood pressure checked on the side that the lymph nodes were removed, but research is showing that that's not necessarily true anymore
Yeah.
either. And this
Yeah.
is all, I mean, all within 10 years, how much has changed. And
Yeah.
those are just two examples of things that have changed. So, I mean, that's just within the breast cancer world.
Well, yeah.
The overall medical research, and there is amazing research coming out of Europe and Asia, and then they talk about it. I mean, every year people get together and they talk about pain management. Like
Mhm.
there's an international
Yeah.
organization of pain management providers, and they get together and they share their new findings with each other.
Yeah.
And this happens across different. There's one for sleep. So the science changes, which means that just because we believe something was true 5 years ago doesn't mean it's true
Yeah.
today.
Like in my lifetime, I have been through eggs are really bad for you. Eggs are really good for you. Eggs are
Hmm.
really bad for you. Eggs like so
Right
if
now,
you
they're good
are
for us.
are they? I don't know where we are. I eat them. I like them. Whatever.
Yeah, I like them too. And even if they are $5 for a dozen, that's still less than 50 cents each.
Yeah. I like eggs. I'm gonna eat
Yeah,
them.
they're very cost effective, even if they're not as cheap as they used to be.
Yeah. Well, and to your point with what you were saying about research, like if you are one of those people that you want to advocate for yourself and you want to do a little research on your own, that's fine, but just know your sources. And if you see one article that says one thing, maybe check its sources. Where did it get this information from? If it's a BuzzFeed article, I wouldn't count that for medical advice.
Yeah. Do you have
So
to keep your certification updated every year?
yeah, I think it's every 4 years. And
Okay.
here's the thing with our certification there's no like governing board on that either. All those certification really says is I went through an extra process with a mentor before. I mean, I could practice. You don't even need training. You can just be a death doula if you want. I just wanted to do that extra bit because I didn't have a background in hospice. This line of work isn't new to me, but it's kind of new to me. So I just wanted to have extra support while I was working with my first few clients.
But having that certification sort of gives you street cred.
It's a nice little thing by my name. So if somebody's like, "Oh, she's certified. She must know what she's doing." I mean, I do.
Like business coach certification, which is hooey. I went through business coach certification. It was hooey.
Yeah.
When I was done,
Well,
I went, that was a waste of my time.
I hear the same thing about life coaching. As a consumer though, if I'm let's say I'm looking for a business coach, if I see two and they both seem really cool, but one says certified, even I don't know anything about business coach
Yeah.
certification. I do now because of you, but looking at that, I'd be like, oh well, they're certified. They're clearly going to be better than this other one.
Yeah. And there is not a governing body, but there is a certification body that people think they should
Yeah.
belong to. And I mean, it's just all of that is really, does this person have the experience that would benefit helping me get to the next place?
Hmm.
Does Nikki, the death doula, have the experience that will help my loved one get from the living to the not living?
Yeah.
And all of the rest of us along the way.
And all of us. Yep.
And that's really all that really matters. Okay, so let's talk about the business of dying. What are your pet peeves about it?
I just hate how many predatory corporations are out there that use death and grief for money. We all love to stick our fingers at the funeral industry and they absolutely do have their faults, right? When mom has died and you go to the funeral home to pick out all the stuff and they're like, "Yeah, you can put her in this casket, but what about doesn't she really deserve this one that's like a $10,000 piece of crap that's going to go on the ground and no one will ever see again?" So that absolutely happens. I'm sure we've all heard stories. Again, you can't paint everything with the same brush. There are some funeral homes that are very much on the up and up. They'll work with you. They won't suggest the $4,000 casket. They might be like, you know what? If you're just going to do cremation, you can rent this casket for the viewing, and then we can put her in a cardboard box. That's the kind of funeral home that would
You
get
know
my
what?
thumbs up.
I like the idea of returning to the soil,
Yeah.
the circle of
Green
life.
burial. Green burial. But as of right now, that is like the most eco-friendly option that we have available. And I I love it. That's what I'm
It's
leaning
more
towards.
eco-friendly than cremation.
Oh, yeah. The amount of energy it takes to fire up the retorts, a retort is the machine that they use to cremate the body. The amount of energy it takes to get those up to the temperature they need to be and to run long enough to completely, burn up the body to ash would be enough to power your vehicle to drive from New York City to Chicago, I think I read. I forget.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. For one body.
Wow. Okay,
It takes
green
an
funeral is. I'm changing my
yeah.
I'm changing my
Yeah. Here's the it's a little better obviously than your I hate using the word traditional burial because it's not, but what we think of now with the casket and the embalming and the vault and all that. It's definitely better than that option, but it uses up a whole lot of energy.
and
It's like
really
paper cups versus styrofoam cups. Paper cups actually require a whole lot more energy to produce and don't break down. Fun fact.
wait, paper cups don't break down?
It depends on the type of cup. Some of them, they're getting better at it, but when they first started making them, they were lined. They had to put liner on them so that
That's true.
the hot liquid didn't disintegrate
Mhm.
them,
Yeah.
and the liner would just cause it to never break down.
And styrofoam does break down, but
It
does
does. It
leave
takes a
the
while.
it does leave the little white
Yeah.
speckles. Predatory funeral homes are one thing. What else?
So we talked also about doctors in the medical field, right? I would like to think that a doctor would be out for your best interest. I have not personally seen this, but there might be that doctor who's getting a little extra something for the amount of treatments they put out, right? We all know that doctors are getting kickbacks for prescriptions, right? We all know that pharmaceutical companies are making bank and they're giving doctors a kickback for prescribing their drugs, which is why they're doing this and why they're advertising to us so that we go ask for them.
Yeah.
But
I just wish that they didn't advertise drugs.
I
I wish they would make that
hard
illegal.
agree. We're the only country that does that. There is no other countries in this world that at least that I'm aware of. I don't think any other countries advertise pharmaceuticals to consumers.
Yeah, because
It's so dumb.
it makes you think, "Oh, well, I have that symptom. Let me ask my doctor for that drug." And then people
Yeah,
are being prescribed things that they don't need.
exactly. Yeah. So, but there's also just the fact again of advocating for yourself. Your doctor might want to, and it might not necessarily mean I'm getting money for all these chemo treatments you're given, but their job is to keep you alive. Death is a failure in the medical industry. So they don't want you to die. They want to keep you going. They don't care about your quality of life. I would hope they would. Some doctors do. I've known some doctors are like, we could keep going, but I would not suggest it,
Yeah.
you know? So that's
That's
a
the
big
doctor
one.
I want.
I know. Me too. I hope if I'm ever in that situation, that's the doctor I will have. It'd be like,
Yeah. I'm pretty happy with my medical care right now. I like my primary care physician. I like my oncologist.
yeah.
I like my physical therapist. I'm happy. I'm happy
I
with the
loved
people who are
my
taking.
primary care, but he retired, so
Well, bummer.
I know. Anyway.
Bummer. Well, okay. So, what is the boldest statement that you are willing to make about how our culture avoids grief and death?
The boldest statement.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't think it's that bold to just say we don't talk about death and grief enough, especially death and especially dying.
So, what would it look like if we did?
I don't have a good answer for that. What I would like is for us to have these conversations for especially if it comes to what your wishes are. Like I'm 47, I'm healthy, knock on wood, but my husband knows exactly what I want. If something were to happen to me, I have my paperwork, my advance directives are done, but he also knows that I don't want to be kept alive artificially. He knows what I want done with my remains after I'm gone. He knows what I would want if I were in a coma. Like I'm a private person. I don't want people to come visit me, maybe just close friends and family and that's it. I don't like to be touched. So like all these things, my wishes are well known because I'm not afraid to talk about it. Like, hey, if something happens to me, if I go into a coma or I'm hit by a car, this is what I want. And just for people to openly have those conversations. We don't have to do it every night at dinner. You don't have to do it at Thanksgiving, but be open to just discussing, hey, mom, what do you want done with your body after you're gone? How do you want us to manage your house? Do you want us to keep it in the family? Do you want us to sell it? Like, what do you want with the family heirlooms? Where should those go? We're just so terrified that if we talk about it, it's going to make it happen.
Yeah.
That's not true. That's not how that works.
But when you talk about it, it there's less.
It's less scary.
I have two sisters. Are we going to wrestle over the the favorite piece of art that all three of us love the most? Or is my dad going to make sure that his will or, his directives basically state this is what Kandas gets, this is what Kim gets, this is what Joan gets.
Yeah.
And that right there solves a lot of problems in the end.
Absolutely. And I always, okay, well, that's another big business is attorneys, right? We have estate attorneys, and they can be just like funeral homes. We can have really, really good ones, and we can have really, really slimy ones, right? So do your research if you pick an attorney. If you need to set up a trust or anything like that, make sure you pick a good attorney. Do your research with that. But they can help facilitate that, right? They can get something that's, as ironclad as humanly possible to keep all that crap out of probate, because probate's the worst, and guide you through that process so that there are no fights. There will always probably be a fight. Somebody's going to get mad about something, right? But if you've got this triple secured, this is what's in the will, it's legally bound, this is what's happening, you're out of luck, right?
I have
Good
a
luck
probate
fighting it.
story.
Oh,
When I was a kid, so this was the 1970s, my dad's aunt, was it my dad's aunt or my grandmother's aunt? They called her Mobby. She was my grandmother's aunt. So my grandmother's aunt was married to this guy named Newt, and Mobby didn't have any of her own kids. So all of her nieces and nephews were her kids. And Newt had a couple of sons. So Mobby, I mean, this is California, so Mobby got half of the estate, right? And I think that Newt died first. So it was her estate when everything was said and done. So she wanted a little bit to go to everybody, right? So they had a ranch. They had a 300-acre cattle ranch in Napa Valley, California. But because of the way the will was written, it had to go into probate. And 10 years later, I think everybody got $5,000. And now that land is a winery because probate took everything.
yeah.
The lawyers took it all.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like that. There's a book that was written by Dickens or one of those authors from that time period about the same story. There was this law case. It was the inheritance of somebody, and it had gone on for decades. It had gone on so long that they didn't really even know who the heirs to the estate were anymore. I wish I could remember what that book was. You know what? It'll be in the show notes because it's going to bug me. So what are some resources for that you would recommend? And I know that I introduced you to Adam Zuckerman, who has a great resource called Buried in Work. So
Buried
there'll
in
be a
work.
link. Yeah, there'll be a link to that in the show notes. But what are some resources that besides hiring a doula that people who are facing imminent death should think about, or even planning for it in the 20 if your death happens 30 years from now, you still need to plan for it.
Oh, yeah. And especially if you have children, get a plan in place for guardianship for them. Because if something happens to both you and your significant other, or whoever the adults are that are the legal guardians of those children, if something happens to both of them, God forbid, what's going to happen to the kids? Because every state's going to be different as far as like kinship as to who's going to get what next. So if you and your mom are on the outs and you don't want her to have your children, you better get something in ironclad writing that gives your guardianship to somebody else.
And then when your kids are adults, you need to rewrite it because
Oh, yeah.
they don't need guardianship anymore.
Well, yeah, that was a whole thing we had to go through with my parents after my brother died because he was older. So everything was like kind of to him, and all the trusts were in his name. And he is no longer here, so they had to rewrite everything. But that's neither here nor there. So first of all, just be open to having the conversations with your family. All right. Keep a running list of your assets. What do you have? Do you have a life insurance policy? Do you have like investments in gold, or I don't know, any of those like physical and monetary assets? Keep running lists of that. Keep it somewhere and fill out your advance directives. Do all the paperwork, but oh my God, make sure somebody knows where it is. Because those papers are going to do no good in a drawer if somebody can't find them.
And your jewelry, if you are lucky enough to have a jewelry collection, it's really nice for you to give it away
Yeah.
if you're not using it anymore.
I actually had that exact situation with a client last year. Her thing was collecting earrings when she went on vacation. So she had this giant thing that hung on the wall with all of her earrings on it from every vacation she's ever been on. And she was like, I would love my granddaughters and my daughters to have these. And I was like, do you care who gets what? Or she was like, I don't know. So what we did was we sat down and went through every pair of earrings, and she wrote down a note with it where she got it and when, and put it in a little bag with the note. And then she had, next time all her granddaughters and her daughters came over, she's like, I want everybody to pick stuff. And she just let them pick what they wanted.
Did they
And it was
take it with them?
beautiful. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
She was like, "I'm not gonna wear these now."
Yeah, I love that. And I love that collection.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to collect,
Yeah.
you
If
know?
you have those things and you know your death is coming, go ahead and give them. You don't have to wait till you're gone to give them away. That way, especially if it's something you're not using, you can see the joy on somebody's face of gifting it to them, assuming they want it, you
Yeah,
know?
one year, my mother and my mother-in-law for Christmas both gave me rings,
Oh,
passed forward, gave them forward to me. And they were both very sentimental. My mother-in-law gave it to me, gave me her ring because I'm a Capricorn and she's a Capricorn, so it was a garnet and it was, a garnet ring. And my mother gave me, she had her wedding ring replaced. She got no, my dad gave her a new ring, so she gave me her old one. So now I have my mom's interim wedding ring because it wasn't her first one. She lost her first one. And so I have her interim wedding ring that I can give to my daughter,
see?
and I can give my daughter her other grandmother's ring when, I have them to give to her when it's time. And I did wear both of them. I don't anymore, but because I never leave the house, so why do I need to wear jewelry?
Fair enough.
The thing that I love about COVID is that I don't have to leave the house anymore. And the thing that I wish that I could get myself out of the house more.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, like I go through the same thing. And I went back to work briefly and then I quit my job and I work at home. So I don't leave the house a whole lot. So I was able to get rid of so much of I had a ton of jewelry. I was a huge jewelry person. Every day was my favorite part was picking out the perfect jewelry for that outfit. I own 4 shirts and like 2 pairs of pants now and a handful of jewelry and that's it. So that's my version of Swedish death cleaning. I got rid of so much stuff.
I love that. I am really tempted to get one of those wool dresses. I think it's Wool and Company is the brand where you wear it every day for like 30 days and then they send you another one or 100 days, whatever it is. I'm really
I
tempted
had
to
not
get
heard
that.
of that. I love
I
that
think it's
idea.
my sister has one of the dresses and I know a couple of other people who have them and they're really basic styles that can be, you put a different scarf on or you wear a
Yeah,
sweater with it or,
yeah,
you just change out the necklace and you could wear the same thing over and over again. Nobody
exactly.
knows. And it's wool, so it doesn't have to be washed very often.
I tried that experiment when I was still working. This was prior to COVID when I was still in the office 5 days a week. I wore the same thing for like 2 weeks to see if anybody would notice. I think one person noticed. Yeah.
I
I would
tend
change the scarf or yeah.
I tend to, if I like the way something fits, like this shirt I'm wearing here, I have two of them.
I have 4 of this shirt. This is the shirt I have. This is it. I have 4 of this shirt. 3, 4 colors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just bought a new shirt because it's, every year you have to buy a new one. So I bought two of the same shirt,
Hmm.
you know. So yeah, I always buy two because if it fits right, just get it in a different color.
I've got 2 of this sweater,
Yeah.
green and
I
brown.
purposely got this little jacket in a print that matches everything, so I can just wear with everything.
I love it.
But I do have things in my closet that I need to do a little Swedish culling
Swedish death
too.
cleaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
There you
need to do a little
go.
of that with my closet because there are things in there that I haven't worn in years. So, however, I do have a pair of shoes. This is how bad I am. I have a pair of Birkenstocks. So they're really expensive shoes, very well made,
Oh,
but
yeah.
they're 30 years old.
I love it.
It's probably time for me to replace them.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
However, I
maybe.
don't leave the house very often, so they don't get worn. Oh my goodness gracious. All
We
right.
got way in the weeds there, didn't
We
we?
did. We did. Okay. Did we fix the conversation on death? Did we
I
fix
think
that yet?
so.
So, okay. What's your number one piece of advice for someone who knows? What's your number one piece of advice about death?
We're all gonna die, right? Here's the thing, accept and understand that you will leave this world one day. That's it. As long as you accept and understand that you will die one day, it can make everything leading up to that a little bit more meaningful. You don't have to YOLO all the time. Like, I'm not saying sell all your belongings and backpack around Europe for 3 years because you'll live longer than that and then have no money. But you know what? Do something. If I quit my job to become a death doula, how many people do that? But I also recognize that my time on this planet's limited. I'm already past the halfway point. So if do the thing, whatever your thing is, do the thing.
Nikki Smith, this is
Yes.
your moment of gratitude. For whom or what are you most grateful?
Oh my goodness. I'm grateful for you for having me on the show. I'm grateful for my family and my spouse because they have supported me through all my crazy decisions and all my whims throughout the years. I've always been a throw stuff at the wall ask questions later kind of person, and they've always supported me through all of it. That's what I'm most grateful for.
Thanks for tuning in to Gratitude Geek, the podcast for grateful micropreneurs building genuine, lasting relationships with clients, colleagues, and community. Our theme music is by Rev Brock and Soul Lily. A huge thank you to Nikki the Death Doula. You can find her links in the show notes at gratitudegeek.com. This is episode 271. I've been your host, Kandas Rodarte. Stay groovy, my friends.
Stay groovy, my friends.